quite a while back, since it was giving me issues, and that should not have been a problem actually. But nevertheless, I have prepared some nice topics for today's episode, I guess. So I also added a command to my channel that works when I'm live on the podcast topic. When you type show notes, you're getting the link to the notes for today's episode that we are recording. And yeah, so the topics I will be discussing today, where are now my notes? There. Will be the news around the controversy regarding Streamlabs. That was in the news, I think, 2 weeks ago. The next topic will be Apple announcing self-service repair, at least at first for the iPhones, but coming for the new M1 based Mac models as well in 2022. Then pretty recent news from this week, that the FTC is also now investigating the acquisition from ARM by NVIDIA. The next thing today will be that Qualcomm and Razer are partnering up to create a Steam Deck or Swift-like device based on a new platform from Qualcomm. Then there has been a release, according to the article that I saw, of the Steam Deck packaging and the carrying case. So we will have a look at that. And then I was watching again yesterday the Linus Tech Tips WAN show, and they had a discussion about issues with the App Store review process, and I have some comments on that topic, so that's what we're closing out with, to have some software development topic in the episode today as well. So yeah, that rounds it up, and then I have something interesting that did not make it in the topic list for the podcast, but I will be discussing basically in the post-recording part, which is connected to quite a few things that are part of today's topic, so it's pretty matching. And I just saw that YouTube video just earlier today, so it's definitely pretty interesting. But I don't want to spoil too many surprises yet. So yeah, as I said, all the articles that I will be discussing in the recording are linked in the show notes, and yeah, feel free to check them out. So let's wait a few moments again, depending if someone else is going to join. If not, we will go into the recording in a few moments. everything's looking good so far. I did not see any new hiccups in the stream, so I hope that will persist now, so that I am getting a clean recording. And yeah, I would say let's get going, and so we can get to the interesting contents of today. Then let me pause the music and switch scenes. Okay. Then enjoy the show. Hello everyone and welcome to my technology podcast. Today with another news-based episode, and we have quite some interesting topics for you that I will be discussing today. The first one will be the controversy around Streamlabs that happened lately, because they were copying or were accused of copying stuff from a competitor. Then Apple's announcement that they are going to allow self-service repair for their devices. Then the latest news about the planned acquisition of ARM by NVIDIA. Then there has been an event this week where Qualcomm and Razer announced a collaboration. And the news item, a report that I saw at Ars Technica about the upcoming packaging for the Steam Deck, which we're going to have a look at in the vidcast portion. But of course, all the articles that I will be discussing during today's episode, they will be linked in the show notes, and you will be able to get all the article links from there. And they should be linked in the episode description, or if you're watching this on YouTube or on Odyssey later, they should be in the video description below. And closing out the show today will be a discussion in regards to the App Store review process by Apple, triggered by a commentary by Luke from Floatplane on the WAN show from Linus Tech Tips. So I have some things to say about that. So let's get started then with our first story of the week. And this is the news story about Streamlabs being accused by a competitor in the gaming console space. The competitor is called Lightstream, and basically they were accused that so Streamlabs was accused that they basically copied one by one the promotional page for their new service, and then also the OBS team also joined in regards to Streamlabs branding their derivative version of Streamlabs OBS, basically with the OBS branding, and copyright, even trying to trademark the term OBS, and yeah, there have been then steps taken by Streamlabs to remedy those issues. But the reason why I am interested in talking about this topic is more in regards to the whole discussion in regards to open source, because practices like Streamlabs has been doing is sadly not that uncommon, not only in the open source space but also in other commercial areas. Was a bit blatant how they did it. You could have done it more subtle, and it would have not been as trouble arousing as it was in this case. But especially for open source projects, very often projects are used or forked, and no credit is given, and without asking permission, and without giving credits. And of course, legally that's not right, and of course, morally that's not right. And this is a discussion that we should be having as a society nowadays in that space of because open source software has become so fundamental for basically almost all products that use modern electronics that we all use every day. And we're at the point that I would argue that due to the abundance of open source software that lays the foundation for so many things, you don't have to reinvent the wheel when you want to start a new project or a new solution. Doesn't matter if it's on a hardware level device or if it's a software solution. You will probably find work done by someone released in open source that will allow you to save not only time but money, and have a shorter time to market, and even perhaps have higher reliability, because you don't have to maintain that portion that you're using from that other project. But you definitely should honor that other project that you rely on, so other people might find the project, find it useful, or even support it either with contributions or even financially. So that's why this behavior, like you see it from Streamlabs, can be really bad for the whole community, or even for every one of us, if it's done in scale. So now this is just one company, pretty famous company in the streaming space, and since Streamlabs also belongs to Logitech, it's not a small organization it belongs to. It's important to point out that this behavior can become very toxic and problematic in our industry. Yeah, that is my take on that situation. Let's go to the next article. And that is the news that Apple is going to allow you to repair your iOS devices yourself, and they are officially going to provide guides and parts for that. It's not yet clear how that will be done in detail, how the official procedures will be for that. But it's important to note that it's at face value a very good step, because right to repair is something that is talked about a lot at the moment. In the US, there is a huge legislative push to allow right to repair, and thereby force companies to allow it. And several news outlets have reported, and commentators have also talked about that this push from Apple, it's nice to see, but the problem is it's not really from their it's not coming from their own hearts, basically, because there has been a motion by shareholders from Apple that basically forced the company to do something in that regard. And there is also some legislation that could have been triggered if Apple would not change its way how things are handled in the repairability department. And yeah, so it will be interesting to see what the implementation of this self-service program will be, since you can on paper offer this program, but the difficulty will be that the terms that are bound to using that program. I don't know who reported that, but a former technician who did work for Apple mentioned that there were so hard constraints for technicians in the past that becoming a certified technician was very hard, and the conditions how you had to handle the parts and send them back, the defective parts, so you could not harvest parts or try to repair them yourself, and so on. So very strict regulations, and that will be interesting to see how this is handled in this case, because you can, even if you provide this service, you can make it very expensive for the end user to actually use that service, because at the moment, especially I think for iPhones or iPads, Apple doesn't do really repairs in their own stores. They are basically doing one-to-one replacements. That happened, for example, to me a few years back myself. I bought I think it was a 2016 iPad Pro, and it had a lamination issue where there was a bubble in the display. And instead of replacing the display, when I went to the Genius Bar in our local Apple store, the answer was, we're not repairing it because it's basically completely glued together. And I walked out of that Apple store the same day with basically a new device. And that's not really eco-friendly. I feel just doing one by one replacements, and I don't know what happened with those devices afterwards. So if they are really refurbished, or if they're just chucked away and perhaps recycled into their bare components for recycling or something. I don't know that. So will be interesting to see how this change from Apple's policy will affect the whole service and repair situation in the future. Something that is definitely to mention in that regard is you're already seeing also in the product design from Apple changes where they are improving in that department. For example, the new MacBook Pros that came out in October, they don't have batteries anymore that are welded to the cases. I had a swollen battery in my former MacBook Pro, and basically the Apple Store had to completely tear apart the device and swap the whole top cover of the notebook, including keyboard, trackpad, and the battery cells, in order to repair the battery. And especially since batteries are volatile parts, that can be quite cost prohibitive, and that is not necessary anymore with the new models, where you have like in many modern smartphones, you have those elastic pull tabs under the batteries, where you can just pull that tab, and basically you're just pulling the glue away under the battery. And those are now in the new MacBook Pros, so you don't have to recycle the top cases anymore when you need to change the battery. But of course, everything else on these devices is now soldered to the logic board, so you don't have any swappable memory, you don't have any swappable SSDs. And that in itself has concerns in regards to longevity, reliability, and but it's a conundrum. I actually thought about that earlier today, because when you think back, the development of basically computer systems in the past 20 years, you can say, when you're getting higher performance, or when you want to get higher performance, you have to at some point tighten the integration. I think the last big step before the current SoC movement, like we have it with the M1 Max, was in the early or mid 2000s, where at that point you had, when you had a computer motherboard, you had on that not only a CPU, but you had a so-called North bridge and a so-called South bridge. And I think it was when Intel transitioned away from the Pentium branding to the Core branding, with the Core Duo and the Core 2 Duo, where they made the step of basically integrating the most of the functionality that was located on the North bridge side of the motherboard chipset into the CPU, which included the memory controller, parts of the expansion I/O for PCI Express, even some USB functionality, and basically then the only thing that remained as a separate chip was more or less the former South bridge functionality, which is now known to everyone who's familiar with computers today as just the chipset. So there is no North or South bridge anymore. It's just a chipset. And now with concepts like the new Apple CPUs, you now see integrations of the memory itself into the processor, which allows you much more control and efficiency on that end. So it's a conundrum where you have to figure out for yourself what's more important for you. Is it in the end performance and efficiency, or is it maintainability and repairability? And I think that's a discussion that we're going to have in the next few years, especially due to these very high integrations. In the Apple space, a lot of people are currently asking themselves, how will Apple do it with the upcoming professional focused iMacs and the Mac Pro that will also run on the Apple Silicon architecture? Because what we're doing in the past with those systems, with upgrading the memory yourself, upgrading storage yourself, and so on, if you apply the concepts from the current M1 chips on those desktop systems, those things will not work anymore. So, will be interesting to see. Then that gives us a nice transition to the next topic. Because we were just talking about Apple Silicon, which of course is ARM-based. And this is an older article that I have put on screen right now about the UK starting an investigation into NVIDIA's planned acquisition of ARM. And when this merger was announced initially, I actually don't remember when that was. A lot of industry voices were already saying, due to NVIDIA's policies in regards to competitors and even partners, the purchase of ARM could end up very toxic for the whole industry. And that triggered the UK's investigative body back in November. And the reason why I'm talking about this now is this week it was announced that the FTC, so the Federal Trade Commission in the US, is now investigating this acquisition as well. And the vote has been unanimous in regards to starting that investigation. Because the FTC sees the same problems that most people in the industry are seeing. So, because a lot of companies are basing their chips on ARM reference designs. That goes from not only Apple Silicon, which we were just talking about, but we have also devices like solid state drives in computers that are using controllers that are ARM based. Of course, basically all smartphones have ARM based SoCs, and basically having NVIDIA taking control of ARM would put NVIDIA on an unfair advantage to the competitors, and even put NVIDIA in the position to perhaps even getting secrets from the products developed by ARM's license partners like Apple, because Apple, for example, does use the reference spec from ARM, but builds their own cores. And probably there is a lot of information exchange, working together, solving problems, and so on. So in theory, NVIDIA could gain additional insights on what Apple is doing or what Qualcomm is doing. So really a tricky issue. And if you ask me, it would be best for the whole industry if NVIDIA is not allowed to buy ARM and complete the merger. But yeah, I think that shows that a more open standard, perhaps for processor architectures, is also needed, like with the open source thinking in regards to software, like I discussed earlier. A lot of companies are already looking into building platforms on the RISC-V architecture, which is in itself open source. And for example, I think Western Digital and Seagate both, but I definitely know Western Digital did it, already built SSD controllers based on the RISC-V architecture instead of ARM. And you will be seeing much more on that in the next following years. But as it was also discussed by other commentators, a transition for platforms like from ARM to RISC-V, or like Apple just did it from, or is doing it from Intel to ARM, those take time to prepare. Let's take, for example, Apple's transition from PowerPC to Intel in 2000, and which was announced in 2005. I think macOS first was released in 2000 or 2000. Not macOS. macOS 10 was announced in 2000 or 2001, and basically what was disclosed then, which was just a rumor until that point, was that Apple basically developed macOS at the time in a way that allowed them to run it on Intel systems and on PowerPC systems at the same time, basically since the inception of the new operating system. And of course, the OS that is running on iPhones and iPads nowadays is based on the same root core of the operating system, like macOS. So since basically you can say that in theory Apple would have been able to run macOS on ARM since the release of the iPhone. So doing this final step has been basically long time in the making. And the crucial part nowadays is really the optimizations. And to figure out optimizations takes time. And for example, RISC-V, it's a new and shiny architecture, but it's still in its infancy. So to see the whole industry shift from ARM to RISC-V in the next couple of years just would not be realistic in my eyes. And basically, NVIDIA locking things up would just mean that the whole industry, except for perhaps NVIDIA, would be stagnating, more or less. And that would be a huge advantage for, of course, NVIDIA, Intel, and AMD, who basically have their own architecture IPs, then, and would just have to would be able to progress forward. And so let's see what the future brings. I hope that, as I said earlier, the merger will not go through, and that we will see much more innovation that is happening in the ARM space right now. There is a lot more to come, which actually gives me I think, perfect transition to my next topic, which is matching again. A collaboration by Qualcomm and Razer for Qualcomm's new Snapdragon G3X Gen 1 gaming platform. So for everyone listening to this in podcast form, Qualcomm and Razer showed off this week a new handheld device as a developer kit running this G3X gaming platform from Qualcomm. And it has really, really interesting specs. So it's featuring a 6.65-inch OLED display with Full HD Plus resolution and 10-bit HDR color. And it features a USB-C port that is not only able to charge, but is especially designed for connecting 4K displays and XR viewer devices. So this handheld is especially designed to be used with augmented reality and virtual reality goggles. And they also gave some interesting numbers in regards to the market, but I'll come to that later. This device, however, despite, for example, a Switch or a Steam Deck, it will be Android based, so it will be an Android handheld, and it's dedicated to Android native gaming and basically streamed gaming. So using GeForce Now or Stadia, or even using stuff like Steam Play or Remote Play. Sorry, Steam Remote Play, or even stuff like Parsec, where you can connect your mobile device to your fully fledged gaming PC or I don't know if it's working with console, but that's the targeted audience for that. The discussions that I heard in other media outlets was pretty interesting, since this has somewhat a weird spot because, of course, you can do all these things that this platform is being designed for basically with any modern smartphone. And even Razer itself, so Qualcomm's partner in this case, has its own grips for smartphones where you can just take the grip, put your smartphone in, and start gaming. And you can do basically everything you want with that. And I think they even offer it for iOS and for Android. So you could even play iOS exclusives when you have an iPhone. And so that's putting it in a pretty weird spot. I don't know who mentioned that, but it's the final product of this is targeting somewhat more the Switch or even the Switch Lite, and which is actually going after a very, very low price point, and that's maybe the saving grace for a product like this. But it shows that companies have really put their focus on the mobile gaming market. In this article from Ars Technica, there are some numbers that were mentioned during the press conference for this collaboration. According to that, 2.5 billion mobile gamers exist, with 90 to 120 billion US dollars of the 175 billion US dollars game industry being part of mobile gaming. So that's a huge market. And you can see now with the Steam Deck and also with devices like this, the Switch, there is definitely an audience for handheld gaming devices like these. Even if accessories like this one that I mentioned from Razer earlier exist, I personally have not seen anyone running around with those things in hand. What I have seen is people using Switches, and of course, I'm not able to spot someone with the Steam Deck right now because it's not out yet. But I think that will be changing, hopefully early next year. And so this is a huge market with a lot of potential, and will be interesting to see what other players are coming onto the market, especially now that the price war has basically started, because other mobile gaming handhelds that have come out in the past that were primarily crowdfunding funded are around $1,000 upwards. And now with the Steam Deck, you can now get a potent gaming device that is basically open to do whatever you want with it, since it's based on Linux, for about $400 US. And so it's hard to argue about than just having a Android-based device, which you could basically game the same stuff on your regular smartphone. So we'll be interested to see how this industry develops down the road. But there's a lot more stuff to come in the mobile gaming space. That's something you can definitely say. Leading us to the next topic. the Steam Deck. Yeah, so apparently these pictures have been, according to this article, released by Valve, or they have been leaked. I actually don't know really. But I find those pictures pretty interesting. So everyone listening to this via podcast, you will find the link to the article in the show notes, so you can look at those pictures yourself. According to this article, these are the final packaging shots, but the first picture already is just basically a blank cardboard box with warning labels, which doesn't look very final version-y to me, especially when you know Valve's previous packaging, for example, for the Index and Index controllers and so on, which was pretty refined. So I don't think that this will ship in a plain cardboard box. I really doubt that. Next picture shows basically a quick start guide with some hints. Then the next one up is basically welcoming you to your Steam Deck. And then you're getting basically to the Steam Deck itself. Then the next shot is the carrying case. And then last but not least, the shot with the carrying case and the Steam Deck inside it. And I have to say, looking at those pictures from the pouch itself and the Steam Deck, they look pretty good. So since I actually ordered myself the version, the mid-tier version where you're getting the carrying pouch, I am really looking forward to that. Sadly, due to the delay that it was announced a few weeks ago, we won't, or I won't have mine probably until, April, May of next year. So still a long time to wait, but let's see. It will be an interesting ride going forward, especially in regards to competition. And but it seems Valve's strategy with the Steam Deck is playing out quite good. I just saw that a few games that have the BattleEye and anti-cheat solution integrated are now rolling out updates, with the BattleEye update allowing them to run on Proton, so that those games can run without issues on the Steam Deck and on Linux systems running Steam and Proton in general. So the delay gives, of course, all the game vendors more time to update their games. And let's see if basically at launch of Steam Deck in February, March, we perhaps might have almost full Steam catalog that is playable on Steam Deck. And that concludes basically the news discussion section of today's episode. Then, last but not least, I want to go into a bit of a discussion piece from my own side, since it came up during the Linus Tech Tips One show yesterday, in regards to issues they had with, or they're having with their Floatplane streaming platform and the accompanying iPhone app for that. And being a mobile developer for the past basically 4 years myself, it's actually interesting to hear their take on that. And it's interesting to see what Apple is doing for platforms like this. I'm not a Floatplane subscriber, so I cannot validate anything that is said in that video. For everyone who wants to watch that portion of the yesterday's Van show, the link with the appropriate timestamp is in the show notes. And basically, they had to remove core functionality from the app, like comments for videos, from their application. And so that Apple passes it through review. And now they had an issue that Apple was not able to log into their application, and the Apple team sent them back a screenshot with another app showing. And I had similar experiences with Apple review process in the past, where we had an app update released, and we have basically included credentials for them to access the features of the app that are requiring a registration, which for our app was not mandatory. For Floatplane, it's basically mandatory, and they were not able to log in, despite us having tested the login the day before. When I got the app back the next day, testing the feedback, it worked again for me. It worked for everyone else. But at the time, we were not getting a screenshot. So that got me asking, did they test our app at that point, if they're showing screenshots of different apps here? And as I also posted under that Van Show video as a comment, I am asking myself, basically Apple is requiring you to specify on which devices your app is supposed to run on. And basically all the time when you get feedback from the App Store review team, they're referencing that they tested it on an iPad, and our app at the time was basically iPhone, iPod only. So why are you testing an app on an iPad when you're when the developer has validated himself the app only on an iPhone or an iPod? Which for me makes no sense at all. But that's Apple's process, and as I have discussed it previously in other episodes, I am someone who is for a strict review process for apps, especially on smartphones, since these are devices that you're carrying with you all day and all night. They hold so many personal information of us nowadays. And I think strict guidelines and reviews of the apps are a good thing. But sometimes Apple is just weird and intransparent, and also inclusive with their own approaches. So they force you to be very strict on device targeting and so on and so forth, and then they're basically testing everything on the same device. Where I'm asking myself, how can they then properly validate? And that's just strange to me. And I think Apple has to do a better job to make the review process more transparent for developers, and to stick more to their own guidelines, basically, so that everyone is and can be on the same page. The same applies, of course, also to other companies who are doing app reviews and so on. For example, also why does Floatplane, which is basically a paid YouTube, to make a bad analogy, because you have to subscribe to a creator to basically consume the contents there. Why are they not allowed to have comments on their app when YouTube is allowed to have that? When, of course, you have free content on YouTube, but we don't have to be registered and so on. But you have YouTube Premium, which more or less is the same. So why have a bad user experience on your platform for a platform like this? So yeah, it's, these policies are really a bit weird sometimes, and I think that there needs to be more transparency and fairness in the guidelines. So that's just my 5 cents on that whole topic. Okay, those were our topics for today. I hope that those takes were interesting to you guys. And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Yeah, next show will be recorded again in 2 weeks. So it will be again released Sunday nights as podcast episode on YouTube, and then on Spreaker as podcast. So it will be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other platforms. And of course, I will be streaming the recording again on Twitch. Normally that would be Sundays at 4 p.m. CET, but on the 19th, that would be that's not possible for me because I have another appointment there. But I will probably do the recording portion live on Twitch on the 18th, probably in the early afternoon. So a bit different schedule in 2 weeks. If you want to join in, feel free. And I am looking forward to hearing back from you guys. And if you're looking for the show notes, they are on my website, bnonet.com. And you will find also all episode archives on that site. So thank you very much for listening, and goodbye. So this concludes the recording portion. So we can go back to our just chatting screen. And we can turn back on some background music. So, I hope those topics were interesting, and yeah, I actually have a bonus topic. Yeah, now I switch back to the scene, but let me just grab my browser for the additional topic, because this discussion that this YouTuber did, I will post that link on the show notes page later as well, because I just found this video today, and I found that discussion very interesting. I did not want to play that. But nevertheless, let me switch scenes back again. Where's my OBS? There. Yeah. I came across this video today, and this man did some research in regards to Valve's upcoming XR headset, which has been rumored to be called Deckard. And I know that we discussed that headset earlier, a few weeks ago as well, in some other discussions. And that guy basically did some digging and found out that Apple and Valve have started a collaboration for an XR headset. And based on the latest rumors from the last few weeks, he found a lot of parallels between both headsets, leading him to the discussion, basically to the theory that the headset that Apple is doing is a collaboration with Valve, or that they have been collaborating in the past, and basically both projects are now derivatives from the same basically project or collaboration, which is intriguing. I did not know, as he discussed in that video, that Apple has founded basically a lab for XR in Seattle, where Valve is located. And Apple, according to him, basically also shifted resources from their own project to work on the project with Valve. So somehow the whole gaming, mobile gaming discussion around Valve and the Steam Deck and so on and so forth, also that the Code Weavers is already working on basically Proton or Wine for ARM with native support and so on. And of course, Code Weavers is heavily involved with Valve in regards to Proton for Linux. It is interesting to see that this new headset from Apple is also rumored to run on a M1 derivative SoC, which would mean that if that's really a collaboration with Valve, that all the stuff that they are doing would would in theory also apply to Macs. And yeah, it's quite interesting because it measures a lot of strains that I was following just basically in regards to Mac gaming in the past few weeks together, and where suddenly all those strategies that are currently floating around separately would suddenly coalesce together. So it will be interesting to see how this mobile gaming, XR gaming space is going to develop in the next few years. There is a lot of collaboration happening behind the scenes. So yeah, I will definitely post that link into the show notes, so you everyone who wants to listen to the research that this guy did, you can do that. And yeah, that would basically conclude everything that I have prepped for today. I don't know if you guys have discussion points of your own or questions. Then we can basically go over to those, and yeah, if not, we will conclude this for today, depending on feedback from your end. So feel free to jump in with comments, questions. You're good? Okay. Yeah, and I actually think you're currently the only one viewing live. So I hope that will change for upcoming episodes. But yeah, a start is made. So thank you very much for watching and listening. And I will basically get into preparing the recording for tonight's release afterwards. And yeah, let's actually see if we can find someone to raid after this podcast session. Basically, for me, at least to say, enjoy the rest of the second Advent. Tomorrow, everyone is back to the regular work week. So, but only a few weeks to go till Christmas. So, okay, no one that I'm following at the moment is live. So, let's see if we can find someone else. Okay, then let's. I don't find anything fitting at the moment, actually. But nevertheless. then yeah, let's do it fittingly, because I wasn't able to do Beat Saber stream this week. I will find a Beat Saber player as our raid target. Then again, thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of the day, and see you hopefully next time. Probably, as I said during the recording, I will be recording the next episode on the 18th. And yeah, if you want to listen or share the recordings, they will be up later today, and yeah, same applies for the next episode then as well. Take care and goodbye.